right here, I think.
I think it's over just a little to the right a little.
I think it's
like this.
I think it's
What if I
literally.
look at the desk? Is that like close enough?
Welcome to The Wardrobe. This is the Who You Know podcast. I'm Rylan Deemer.
And I'm Elisa Wildy.
And we've got a great show for you today with a wonderful guest. We're going to be talking about soccer in the United States and around the world. We'll also be talking about religion and some additional interesting situations at university that our guest went through. So Marcus Shields, welcome to The Wardrobe.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
And just get my word out and also my opinions out. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
We're happy to have this as a platform for people to share their stories, get people to know them on a deeper level, and just from a personal standpoint, being able to connect with people in like a long form conversation, which I feel like we don't get enough of.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone has a unique story to bring to the table, or like a unique experience or version of their life, and other things they're passionate about that we aren't.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Yeah. Broaden your interests.
Not that we're not passionate about things.
Well, I'll make you passionate about soccer.
Yeah, please do. Because I think like soccer is this interesting sport for me personally, because it was never interesting at all. To me, as well, and for me, like most sports aren't as interesting at all.
Yeah.
But soccer was the one that first became something that I kind of followed, particularly World Cup soccer, because I had a close friend a number of years ago who introduced me to World Cup soccer and his own passions toward certain teams, and it kind of opened my eyes to like. There's this whole world of fun that I wasn't letting myself experience because I just had, for some reason, like kind of a negative feeling about sports in general.
Yeah.
And maybe part of that was my own incompetence at, sports performance. Maybe
that word made me
let me
laugh.
just, I'll just lay that out there. So, why don't we start off with some easy questions? Like, what's your favorite team?
Well, I mean, going back to like, you nervous about like being a fan of sports, but like soccer is like one of the easiest sports to get into, I feel like, because it's the world sport. That's another way to think about it, but yeah, it's like obviously the most popular sport in the world. Everybody watches it from every country, and it's like half the people on my intramural team are foreigners, but like it's a great way to meet people. But yeah, back to your like original question.
Sure.
Yeah, my favorite team is I guess like country-wise, it's USA, obviously. And I'm American. But other than that, it's Chelsea. If you've heard of them,
I have. Yeah,
they are
That's
in
the other one, I think.
Yeah, they're in the English Premier League. I've been a fan since I was like kind of a kid. I played like growing up. All of my teams that I played for were like our jerseys were blue, and it's like Chelsea's like the Blue Lion. And so there's like, oh, they're blue too. And they're also really good. So it's like, that's how I became a fan, kind of.
That's so interesting because it's almost arbitrary, right?
Yeah. Well, because like you're cheering for a country or like a team that's not even in your country. So like, you don't have any obligation to like pick your city or anything like that. So you're kind of just like at the whim of when you're like 12 years old, what do you think is cool?
Yeah.
And Chelsea was cool at that point in time. So.
Yeah, like there's
Manchester United? Is that what you're talking about?
well, yeah, there's that other big team.
They're big, yeah. Man City, Man U.
Yeah.
They have Man U has Ronaldo. So
yeah, did you have like a role model versus like a team that you watched of like a soccer, like I want to be like this player?
Yeah. Growing up, it was kind of like Ronaldinho, but like also soccer's not really televised in America, so you can't really watch it. And we didn't have YouTube back growing up. Like nobody really watched YouTube back then, so you can't like just watch people play soccer whenever you want. You can't watch them on TV or anything like that. So it's definitely a lot more difficult to follow that, and then also like base your play style off of somebody. It's a lot easier nowadays, I feel like. That's why like I didn't really watch it growing up as much as I do now. But
what is his name again that you said?
Ronaldinho.
Did he play for Chelsea?
He played for Barcelona.
Oh, so it's a different team even.
Yeah.
I feel like growing up, I played soccer K through third grade, and it was Mia Hamm, and that was all I knew.
Yeah,
I didn't even ever watch it, but I feel like I know players now more, probably partially because of like social media that you don't have as a kid too, and so like I can hear about them more. Yeah, that's a good point. Do you watch games on YouTube, or like?
If I can't watch it, because the unfortunate part is that it's always during work, so it's games are always around like 2 or 3 o'clock, or like on the weekdays they're like 2 or 3 o'clock
because they're being played
in England, which is like I think that's like 8 o'clock over in England. Otherwise it's at like 8 o'clock in the morning here on a weekend, and I don't get up that early unless it's a big game. But
well, yeah. So how often do you watch soccer?
I try to watch as much as I can. I try to watch as much Chelsea as I can. I make sure that I watch the big games. So like if it's like there's like the big six, I guess is what they call them in the Premier League. It's like the most funded teams.
How many teams are there?
6. The big 6.
But how many total?
In the Premier League?
Yeah.
I think it's like 20.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's like 6 teams that have like all the money, and they're always finishing top 4. Because top 4 is like there's like a Premier League and there's a Champions League. Champions League is like all the clubs from all of Europe go and play against each other. The best clubs from the best leagues play. And so you want to be in that top 4 of the Premier League to go play in that cup competition, which we won last year. So,
cool.
Did you hear that we?
Yeah.
I love it when people say we, because I don't have that.
Feels like I won it.
Yeah, the team attachment has always been interesting, and I know like one of our earlier episodes on the show talking with Dan Johnson about that.
Yes.
It was incredibly insightful to hear about like how he views his connection to that team and that culture. And I imagine that's pretty different when you're not able to be surrounded by that, right?
Yeah.
Because like your team, like Chelsea, you're not probably running into a lot of not Chelsea often. Fans on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, though thankfully in college my roommate was a Chelsea fan, so I had that going for me. It's like it's kind of surprising. You'll like voice your opinion of like, oh, I'm a fan of Chelsea, and then like you find out like, hey, this guy actually watches soccer too, and he follows. And like, there's a lot of people that like nobody really talks about it, but like they're actually fans of it, and you don't find that out until like you actually like soccer comes up in some conversation or something like that.
Yeah, so you've got like a secret society.
Yeah. Nobody knows who they are though, which is kind of disappointing, but
sure.
Okay, like you've had roommates and friends that obviously follow soccer as closely as you, and do they cheer for the same team? So you mentioned your one roommate, but have you ever had friends or roommates where you're watching a soccer game and you guys are against each other in the same room?
It's more like it's not really like, oh, I hate you or anything like that. It's like more like friendly competition, because there's like 40 games in a season. So like if you lose one game or you tie, it's not really that big of a deal. Like if you look at NFL, like any football sport, there's only like 14 to 17 games in a season. Yeah. So it's a lot more of a burden if you lose.
Get a little more passionate in those games.
Yeah. So like, but like in Champions League, I guess I haven't watched it with anybody other than like a Chelsea fan. Champions League, because we'll like split off and he'll go watch it somewhere else, and me and my Chelsea fans will watch it.
Chelsea room only.
Yeah. Go stay in your dorm. Yeah, you're not welcome.
It's probably important.
Yeah, because those games are a lot more important. So yeah, we get more intense into those ones.
Have you ever watched a soccer game outside of like wherever you're living? Like, are there
like gone
sports
to one?
bars? Oh, that's a good question too. I was thinking of like, do sports bars play a soccer game that you've ever gone to just for a soccer game?
Like a soccer sports bar?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any kind of where we're at.
But there would be like
in a bigger
Europe,
city,
right?
Oh yeah,
okay.
They're everywhere.
We had stuff like that in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah. In bigger cities, they have them. In England, there's like every bar is like a
team
soccer
bar.
That's what I imagine just from watching Ted Lasso.
Well, you watched the right show then. You're learning more about soccer.
I did. I know that the field is called a pitch.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that before.
In England, they call it a pitch. We just call it a field.
Okay.
But you pick up different lingo as you go along.
Mm-hmm. So besides, I heard you inhaling. Or did you have another question?
Well, I kind of wanted to go back to the. Have you ever been to a professional? Game?
I think when I was really little, I went to like an actual. It was like the International Champions Cup or something like that. But it's like they play friendlies in America. The European teams come over. Otherwise, I mean, the European clubs primarily play in Europe. I haven't been to Europe yet, so I'm hoping to go someday. But I've been to some MLS games.
I did go to this is a few years back in Chicago. There's like what is it, like a Central and South American league of some sort, and they came to Chicago and competed at the
I guess Liga MX. That's the Mexican soccer league.
No, it was like different countries. So I think the game out was like Chile versus Colombia.
Oh, that would have been like something like the Gold Cup or something like that. It'd be like the nations, I guess, competing for a trophy. Because USA just had I think it was the Gold Cup or the Confederations Cup or something like that, where it's like all of North America competes for a trophy. Like historically, USA is not very good against Mexico, and we've beaten them the last 3 times we played. So it's been crazy. And like they throw stuff, like the fans will throw stuff at our players. And like there's always fights going on in the game. It's fun to watch. Definitely recommend it. Nobody ever knows when it's on because nobody really follows soccer. But if you do like happen to scroll across it, definitely watch it. It's intense. Yeah.
So besides sports watching and I think you do some coaching as well. Am I right about that?
I want to get into coaching.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't gone yet. I've been busy with exams and whatnot.
So besides sports viewing, I think you also spend a lot of time helping out with your church. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so, like on a weekly basis, how much time do you think you're spending on like church related activities, whether you're helping or just there as a participant?
Yeah. I'd say volunteering for the church is pretty low maintenance, but like church activities in general, like we have obviously you go to church on Sundays, it's like an hour or so, and then there's like a Bible study group on Thursdays. So I just got converted about a year ago now, like last week to the day. And that's like when I got baptized and everything and confirmed into the Catholic Church.
Well, congrats on 1 year. I know that's like a big step.
My reward was to take an actuary exam.
Oh my gosh.
That same weekend. It was so great.
Well, so this is interesting to me because I didn't, I guess I had it in my head that you like grew up Catholic, but maybe more recently got more involved with the church. But what it sounds like now is maybe you didn't grow up Catholic, and this is like a newly converted to that branch of Christianity. So I guess I'm curious, like, how did that come to be? Like, why Catholicism? Why not any number of other denominations, Lutheran, Presbyterian?
So I grew up Baptist, but I would really primarily only go with like my grandparents or something like that. And so like we would go often help, and there's like an elderly home that we would help volunteer at on the weekends as well to like push the old ladies to the church. It's pretty fun. They love me. Then after that, went to a Catholic high school and kind of like, I guess, distance myself from the faith through that. Because like, I mean, most kids that are that age kind of like aren't super religious. Like they're like, oh, I have to do this because my parents want me to, and all that kind of stuff. So like, I feel like if your parents are forcing you to do it, you're not really gonna want to do it. So that's kind of where I was at that point in time in my life. But like I was still learning stuff, going to the Catholic high school, not being Catholic. So I was like still learning about
specifically religion.
The Catholic religion. And they even like, we had classes about other religions as well, just to like broaden our knowledge and whatnot. So I guess like I did know about other religions. Yeah. So like after high school, wasn't like super religious or anything like that. And then like went to college. Some stuff happened.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So later in the episode, we will talk about the impetus for maybe the shift in your approach toward religion.
But other than that, so like I like after that happened, I was like kind of just like cruising through college anyways still at that point. And around like my junior year of college, I was just like kind of sitting around like, what is my purpose? Like, what am I here for? What am I supposed to accomplish? And so I was like kind of thinking about that, and just like I didn't have an answer to that. So I was like, well, how do I get an answer to that? And it's like one of my friends invited me to a Catholic church because she was Catholic. And so I was like, sure, why not? I've got nothing going on today. So I went with her. It was all right. I was already used to it, I guess, because like I went to a Catholic high school, so I'd been to masses before. And so like I didn't really think a whole lot of it, but it was just like, oh, it was nice to go again. After that, like I think I went like once or twice more. And then I got invited to go to this thing called SLS. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's like some like leadership conference for Catholics in college, basically. And so the Catholics, I guess, they have a whole system called Focus. It's like Fellowship of Catholic University students or something like that.
So I don't mean to interrupt too much, but like I kind of want to understand, like at this point, like are you just kind of like going along for the ride and kind of like idly trying to figure out some purpose for your life?
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of moving along with, or are you already at this point kind of like,
I'm at this point, like I'm kind of close. I'm still like trying to figure out like what do I want to do with my life and why am I here? And so I'm like trying to explore this option, I guess, more. So it's like back to like the Focus missionaries. It's like a bunch of college graduates that come back to college, like not their college per se. They like get shipped off to whatever college you're assigned to. And so we had a couple of missionaries at our college, and they're like really cool guys. And they invited me to go to SLS, and I was like, well, what is this? And apparently it's like a week-long retreat down in, like, they switched the cities around, but ours was down in Phoenix. So it's like, okay, maybe I'll go, but also it's like $1,000.
Oh wow. Okay.
So like that was like a big hindrance for me.
Especially, for a college student.
And I wasn't even like Catholic either at the point. The other thing is like, do I really want to like put that much effort into this? Like, I don't even know if this is like going to work out. So the college that I went to, Drake, one of the alumni, I think, offered a scholarship to whoever was like, couldn't afford it, I guess, so that they could go and experience it. And so I took up that opportunity, went. It was like a 26-hour bus ride. Oof, it's awful. But ended up, we made it to Phoenix, and that's kind of like the point where I found myself.
Yeah. During that week-long retreat?
Yeah, because like
not on the bus ride.
Nope. The bus ride was miserable. Like it was incredible because like I wasn't really thinking anything of it. I thought it'd be like a small kind of little event. And so like we walk in to the building, to the conference center, and there's just like thousands of people that are in college and they're Catholic, and they're just like so energetic about God and just being there. And there's like flags waving around with like your college.
It's like a soccer game.
It was incredible. And I was like, wow, that was like an eye-opening moment, like maybe I am supposed to be here kind of thing. And so like throughout that weekend, I just like kept experiencing the Lord more and more and more. We had like a holy hour adoration. That's like was like my first time just sitting there and praying for an hour, 2 hours, and we just sat there and prayed, and I'd never done that before, and it was like it's really powerful.
You kind of described two different things there, and I want to understand a little bit more about that. So you first pointed out like the excitement from the other people there, as like a major part of the experience, and then also now you're talking about like this prayer aspect. So you've got like kind of like the horizontal transcendence, right, where you experience something through someone else's actions, and then you've got like the vertical transcendence of prayer, where you're trying to commune with God. Right. Yeah. So were those both instrumental in?
Yeah, definitely. Like even throughout college, it's just like the community there and in college was like, it was amazing. Everybody's welcomed. Everybody's super passionate about the same thing. Like it's just easy to connect with everybody there, especially when everybody's passionate about the same thing. Yeah, and then the other part is like experiencing it on my own, because like having everybody passionate about the same thing, that can only get you so far. But actually experiencing that for yourself, that's where the adoration came in. So like when I was just sitting there in my first adoration and just praying for like an hour, just like eventually like at first like I didn't know what I was doing, because it was my first time ever doing that.
And I don't either, so maybe you can shed some light on like what that means.
So adoration is basically they bring out the Eucharist, if you know what that is.
That's the like communion wafer.
Yes. And so like we see that as Christ, like Christ's body himself. He is present in the Eucharist.
Symbolically or literally?
Literally.
Okay.
So they bring him out and they set him up up at the front, at the pier. So like we just sit there and observe and pray to him, because he's present right now. He's present in our church, and it just makes praying a lot easier, because you can see Jesus is right there. So after having that experience, it's like I was like breaking down during the whole thing after like I figured out like what am I like praying about, and then I started to get like a little emotional, because like things were coming up that I'd never like thought about before and never prayed about before. And that's like kind of like the point where I was like, okay, this is real and I need to be more a part of this.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to me. It reminds me, like what's running through my head right now is it reminds me of like therapy sessions, as the therapist like, guides you toward like, along different chains of thought until finally you're thinking about something that you haven't thought about before, or maybe coming at it from an angle that you haven't thought about it before. And then like the emotions get unlocked. And it sounds so similar to, these two things.
And because I've done therapy before for some other stuff, and I definitely say it's comparable, but it's a lot more like principles based. Like
the therapy is more principles based. Is that
religion?
Religion is okay.
Because you have like a certain set of things, like priorities. You have a certain set of, I guess, responsibilities, kind of, and there's like an expectation of like what you do, because like Jesus has set all this stuff in stone. Like when he was here, he kind of like led us by example of like, what do you do in this situation kind of thing, and how to carry yourself. And so I feel like therapy on its own like doesn't really account for that. And so like when I was doing my therapy, I'd like bring in that aspect, and that helped a lot. Bring in like the religion aspect.
Interesting. So like fusing those two things together led to better outcomes for you.
When you first brought up the Adoration. I'm just thinking of it. I don't think this is how you handle it, but I'm thinking of it. What if you were there and you were like, oh my gosh, I have to sit here for an hour? I feel like that you do start to like unwind yourself and get deeper, because you're not just going to sit there for an hour staring around or like whatever. So you start to like, I just feel like doing nothing makes your wheels turn so much and you just find yourself inside of you.
Yeah, because I mean, you're forced to sit there for an hour or 2 hours and just like,
I mean, yeah, and maybe there's people that will waste that time, but like that seems like if I sat there for an hour,
I'd want to make use of it, I guess, is what. Like,
yeah. Like you're not just gonna I don't know, I want to know what would happen to me.
Do you want to know what else it
calm down.
Me of?
What? Meditation?
Yeah.
I was thinking that too, but I agree.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one other thing you mentioned that I want to hit on. You said you're involved in hospitality.
Yeah.
What does that mean, maybe?
So we have like an archdiocese of our area, and
that's like a administrative organization within the church. Is that
so? It's like, like bishops, archbishops, cardinals. It's like they kind of like split it up. So like there's an archdiocese of one area, there's an archdiocese of another area, but it's like several cities combined into this one area. So previously, it's like coming out of college, there was like, we had lots of events because we had the Focus Missionaries. There was always something going on. There was like a big community basically. And so after graduating college, I was asking around like, hey, I'm a new Catholic. Is there anything for me to do? I just moved back to my hometown and I'm like looking for stuff to do and like keep my faith alive. And there was really nothing for me.
Really?
And so it was like kind of eye-opening, like how big of a transition college was to, I guess, the real world or whatever you want to call it. But I was like, kept asking around. There was nothing Catholic around the area. So I like started going to some like Protestant events and whatnot. And eventually I reached out to a friend from college who knew some people in Omaha that were Catholic, and he reached out to them for me, and I got introduced to them. Then all of a sudden I heard about the first ever event in our entire area that we've ever had for like, because it's more primarily like young adults is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Because like people that just graduated college or under 30 or something like that. And there was nothing like that before. And so like this was the first ever event. I think that was like back in December. Went to that, didn't know anybody going in.
And you weren't volunteering at this event? You were just there as a attendee?
Okay. Yep, just attending and trying to meet anybody I can.
Sure.
Because I did not know a single person. So
well, and as you've already said, like the community is so important to you.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's so easy to meet people there, especially if you don't know anybody. But like everybody's welcoming. And so like I met like 10 people there the very first night. We had the event, the adoration, and then we had like an after party kind of thing at somebody's house, and just hung out. People can connect and mingle, whatever you want to do, meet people. So my job was to meet people because I didn't know anybody. And so happened to run into a guy that looked like somebody from a show that I watched, me and my roommates. And so I was like, hey dude, can I get a picture of you?
Wait, so you actually believed him to be the person?
No, he just looked exactly like him. So like, can I get a picture with you? And so we took a picture together and sent it to my old roommates from college. And then so he ended up being like, he was pretty significant, but I think it's like his fiance or his wife.
You mean significant like within the organization?
Our event.
Okay.
Yeah. She was even more significant in that she was kind of like on the leadership board of it. And I just happened to meet him, who introduced me to her.
Sure.
And so like we were talking all night, and eventually she like asked me, hey, do you want to come to the leadership like committee basically?
Okay. Yeah.
And
that's how you got involved with.
Yeah, that's how I got involved
the
in
hospitality side.
Yep.
So like what kind of hospitality are you providing?
So because it's only like one event and
annually?
Monthly.
Okay.
Monthly. But so like primarily I'm in charge of like greeting people, making sure people feel welcomed, and also
like, hi, I'm Marcus.
Yeah.
Need help finding a seat.
Well, and like we have like handout, like try to get people to, like, if they're there, you want them to be more connected with the community, and like, because you want them to keep coming. And so like our goal is to basically like provide a friendly face, somebody that they like know, because like when I came, I didn't know anybody, and there wasn't really a whole greeting section set up for it. And so like that's where I came in, is to provide a friendly face to like people that don't know anybody, that like is like what I was back in the day.
Yeah, and being welcoming is so important for like any organization. Like I have a problem personally where I've got like resting brute face. So like if I'm not like intentionally like, you know, looking like I'm happy, I'm like this. So sorry, audio viewers, you didn't see that. But so like I kind of had to like train some of that like welcoming vibe into myself, which, you know, that I did that a long time ago. So I feel like I've been pretty good about it. So yeah, I definitely understand like the importance of having like a welcoming greeting, you know, as you arrive somewhere, especially like if somebody's like new in town or you know, just doesn't know anyone at the event.
I hope you feel like you're affecting those people's lives, because I feel like that's what I look for when I'm in a foreign place and don't know anyone.
Well, like doing this, you never truly feel like you're affecting somebody's life until like you hear about it, basically. Like you don't really think about it, I guess. You're just like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. But like, unless you like really truly think about it, like, oh, I actually affected this guy's life. I had an impact on him and or her, and like maybe they didn't want to come again, and now they do want to come again because I helped them like introduce them to some people that I know, and now they want to keep coming.
So you know, thank you for sharing all of that, and I'd like to move on to, you know, kind of the impetus for, you know, you said you reached a point where you were just like, what is all this for? You know, what is the point of my life? What is the purpose? And as I understand it, and I've heard some of this through the grapevine, and maybe not directly from you, so you can, you know, feel free to correct the record if I'm misspeaking here, but a lot of the impetus for that was your you had an experience in university that I would probably classify as traumatic, and I guess we wanted to give you a chance to talk about that in whatever way you want. You know, I don't know how detailed we need to get with it, but just kind of like hearing from your perspective, like what you went through, and we're gonna ask, you know, some questions about like how that shaped
like
your life now.
What was the impact?
So, you know, maybe give us like the high level view, like what happened.
So essentially how it kind of like started was I had a friend in college. He was my best friend. He was my roommate freshman year of college, and like we were super close, and he wanted to transfer because like I wasn't originally in a fraternity at that point, because I had my best friend. We like just did our own thing, and so I wasn't really like concerned with joining a fraternity or anything like that. And then all of a sudden he's trying to transfer out of college and move on, and so I'm like, well, what am I going to do now?
Especially
my best friend's leaving.
Community focused.
And so I'm like thinking about like, what do I do? I guess I got to find new friends basically. And so I knew a couple guys in a fraternity, so I was like, oh, maybe I'll join a fraternity then. I joined the fraternity, or like I pledged for the fraternity in the spring, so like much later, because most people pledge in the fall, like right away. And so I pledged in the spring, was the only pledge in that class. So I knew a couple guys who were fellow actuaries, actually. Oh, they're actuaries, maybe I should join their fraternity. So I rushed it. At this point in time, I didn't really have time to rush it because I was taking an actuarial exam that month. So I could only rush one fraternity, which was unfortunate. I just joined them because I knew that they had a couple actuaries that like I was friends with, and so went through the whole process, accepted the bid or whatever it was. So like I was like going to some fraternity events for like a week or so, and there was like a party coming up on that weekend after I pledged, and I had some friends in town at the same time, and so I managed to get them to all come with me to the party, and so basically we were just like having fun, and so then like one of the guys like, hey, you need more drinks, and I was like, all right. He introduced me to some other guy. He's like, yeah, I'll get him drinks later. And so then he came up to me later and grabbed me, took me up to his room, and started like, drink this. And
so what was going through your head at that point? You're
at that point, yeah. At that point, it's like, okay, I'm like trying to meet people because I just joined this fraternity.
Yeah.
I only know like the actuaries here. It's like this guy was new to me. I'd never met him before.
You're trying to just kind of like participate, go along.
Yeah. And like that's the other thing is like you're a pledge. Do you really have a say? You're trying
because like if you don't do it, they may reject your.
Basically, yeah. Because you're not still officially part of the fraternity. You're still trying to get into it. So it's like kind of like you're an intern at a job.
Yeah.
And like your boss or somebody who's already working there is telling you to do something. You're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Because you want to get hired.
Scary,
So it's like he was telling me to drink all these drinks, and it's like I did that. It was probably like 5 or 6 shots or something like that.
Oh, wow. And this was like, let's say it's 6 shots. How long of a period of time did you take those?
Probably like 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yeah, so we went back downstairs, hung out for like an hour or so more. Pretty intoxicated at this point. 6 shots deep. I think the party kind of died down or whatever. So like me and my friends walked back to the dorms, I think it was, and the friends that like had been visiting me, they went to my room. I hung out with some other like previous pledges for like a couple minutes, like half an hour or something like that, while we were in the dorms, and then we went back out to a bar to get another shot, ran down to McDonald's, saw some other fraternity people there, and it's like as we were like in line getting food, the other people that I was with, they had already gotten their food, so they were like sitting down, and I was just like still at the counter waiting, and then one of the guys comes up to me, who's
one of the guys from
who's already in the fraternity.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one of the upperclassmen came up to me at McDonald's, was like, hey, we're having an after party, come swing by around like 2:00 or something like that. And it's like I didn't think of anything of it. It's like, oh yeah, it's an after party, so there's probably gonna be a couple people there. And so so I walked back to my table, and like one of my friends asked me kind of like, oh, what was he asking about? And I was like, oh yeah, they're having an after party back at the house. And he's like, oh, that's weird because I didn't hear about that. And he just like told me to be careful and whatnot. And I didn't really think anything of it because, I mean, growing up, like nobody really thinks hazing happens anymore.
Yeah. Did you ever find out why your friend asked you to be careful? Like, where did that come from?
I think he just kind of knew that guy. I guess he like because he was a pledge in the previous year, so I guess he knew that guy better than I did because I'd only met him an hour ago. Yeah, so he's just like, be careful, just watch yourself. And it's like in discussing with them, it's like that's kind of weird that they didn't get invited, but I did. But I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, I'm a naive little freshman, just trying to fit in, whatnot, trying to get accepted in the fraternity. So I head back. I was like thinking like, oh, there's going to be a bunch of people here or whatever. And I head back to the house. And so I like walk into the door, sit down on the couch. There's a couple of people there, but there's not really like an after party kind of thing. So like, that's kind of weird. So I'm just like sitting down on the couch on the main floor and just like, where is everybody kind of thing. So like I'm asking like, have you seen so-and-so? Nobody had seen him. So I just like kept sitting around waiting. And then I think one of them came up from the basement, because that's like the basement's like where like the parties are, I guess. Yeah, so one of the guys came up, brought me downstairs, and as I'm like walking downstairs, it's like it's all dark. It looks like it was when I left it. Like there's still like music going on and lights and whatnot. Like get down there, there's only like 5 or 6 people down there. I was like, this isn't really an after party, but I mean, like, still not really thinking anything of it. It's just like it seems a little strange.
Yeah.
And so I'm down there, like hanging out, dancing and whatnot, and then like immediately, the guy from before told me, brought me upstairs, and
He brought you back upstairs?
yeah, back up, because like all of his drinks are in his room.
Oh.
Yeah. So brought me back upstairs, is like, hey, you need to get some more drinks. And at this point, like, I'm just like, dude, I've had a lot. And like, I'm not as big as you. This dude's like probably like 6'3", 180 or 90 pounds. And like, dude, I'm not as big as you. Like, I can't have that much. And like being a freshman, like you don't really like get absolutely like trashed and like blackout.
Yeah.
Cause like you have less experience, basically. He has more experience. It's like, dude, like, please look after me. Like, I don't want to die.
You said that to him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And
So you were feeling really fearful at this point.
a little bit. I was putting a lot of trust in him.
Yeah.
Which I realize is wrong. Cause like he's supposed to be my brother or whatever. So it's like, hey, like, I need you to look out for me. 'Cause I don't know as much as you do. I don't really know what I'm doing. And I don't know how much I can drink, but I know I've had a lot already. Make sure I don't drink like too much, I guess. And he's like, oh, you're good. And walk up the stairs to the room, and he's pouring out all these drinks and having me take one and one after the other. And like halfway through, maybe like 3 or 4 shots in, and like halfway through, I was like, dude, this is a lot. Like, I don't think I can have it anymore. And he's just like, hey, don't worry about it, you're fine, and like keep going. And like trying to be, I guess, like comforting, I guess, if that's a good word.
To make you feel like it's okay.
Yeah. And so I'm like trusting him because he's supposed to be my brother. And it's like I keep taking drinks and taking shots and whatnot. And then he like pours me some more drinks. And so then we have like 3 or 4 drinks in our hands as we go back down the stairs. Yeah, so at this point I'm like, what, 12 shots in at this point or something like that? Like the ones from before might have worn off a little bit, but like I just took like 8 shots just now. And so we go back downstairs and like absolutely trashed. And one of the girls like has a cup of water and was like, we were like dancing together, and she's like, you look terrible. And so they're like, you should drink this water. So I like chugged the water. Had not had like any water all night either, which is another bad thing. And so like I'm just hanging out, and then he comes up to me again, is like, hey, this guy's got a drink in his hand and it's full. You should go drink that. And I was like, are you serious right now? It's like, fine. At this point, I'd kind of given up like on like being looked after, I guess. Yeah, I didn't feel like I was being looked after at all, and did not feel like I could really trust him a whole lot. Went up to the guy, grabbed his drink. I took like a sip of it. I was like, dude, I'm wasted right now, and like I'm about to black out. And so I took a sip without like the guy from before seeing, took a sip and like tiny sip, and like handed it back to the guy. I was like, dude, is this enough? And he's like, yeah, you're fine. It's like, thank you. And then I like walk over back to wherever I was before, and comes up to me again. He's like, hey, this guy's got something in his coat pocket. You should go check that out. So I walked over to the other guy, and I was like, dude, like I've had so much already. Like I don't know that I can take any more. and then he just like basically ignored it and handed me like a bottle of vodka and told me to drink it.
Like one of those mini,
like that big.
He had a full bottle of vodka.
Yeah. And told me to start drinking that. And it's like I took like 2 chugs of that, and it was like, is that good enough? Because like he was more of like like you can like kind of tell how a guy is just like by looking at him. Because the guy before that I like asked like, is this enough? Like after I took the sip, and it's like he seemed like a nicer dude. The guy that I was going up to before, or this next time was like didn't seem as nice as the guy before.
Right.
And so like I took like 2 chugs as before, and then he's like, keep going. And so I like took a couple more and handed it back to him. He's like, okay, that's good enough. And so then at this point, I'm just like 5 minutes from blacking out. I remember everything super vividly up to the point of blacking out, just because it was like such a big part of my life and still is, which kind of sucks. Yeah, so blacked out, woke up in the hospital, had like a bruise on my head, bruise on my arms. The only thing I think I remembered was like puking in some trash can or something like that, like very cloudy.
Yeah.
It was like puking in a trash can, like somebody like, oh, Marcus, you're gonna be okay, something like that. Yeah, I woke up in the hospital. I don't think my parents were there at that point. And I think I passed out again. And then when I woke up again, my parents were there. It was just very, I guess, like seeing my parents and like feeling like I had let them down. And like especially my sister, because I have a younger sister. She's 2 years old, or 2 years younger than me. And so she was just about to go into college, and just like felt absolutely terrible about it. Like, so I'm supposed to be her older brother, supposed to be a role model to her, and that was not one of those cases.
Yeah, sure.
Also, like my parents are like 2 hours away, so like having them have to drive all the way up in the middle of the night was kind of crazy. But yeah, so like I am still like absolutely wasted in the hospital. Even after they pump my stomach, it's like they're like talking to the doctors and whatnot, and like as the day goes on, I'm able to like comprehend stuff more and like talk and hear people better. My parents are like talking to the doctor about like, oh, what happened, and the doctor was like, yeah, your son was 5 minutes from dying.
Wow.
And so like just hearing that was not ideal. It was pretty sad and pretty eye-opening, I guess. Like how close I came to not being here.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, at that point, I was still drunk. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But then like trying to like not think about it and just like make a joke or something like that. I didn't make a joke about that, but just like trying to keep positive basically. And then like they kept talking about it, and it's like, yeah, these guys like waited till the last minute to call anybody. Like,
do you know how long it was that they waited to call?
I do not. It was probably like an hour or so. Yeah, so like they said they found me out in the yard, and they had like cut off all my clothes. A lot of stuff happened after the event too. I was like talking to one of the guys that runs like public safety there, and he used to be a cop in New York.
New York City?
I don't know what. Okay. It was a big city in New York.
Sure.
He's like telling me like in like 20 years of service in New York, I have never seen anybody not respond to like those electric things and wake up.
Wow.
And I was the first one that had ever done that. And so it's like, as we go on, it's just like more and more like how grateful I am to still be here.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the connection back to like, you were so close to dying? It's surprising to people, like based on what they've seen in the past, that you're still alive. And then you're kind of, is that tying back to the purpose of like why almost? Like there must be a reason why like I didn't die.
Yeah. And that was like, I didn't really think about it until like, I guess kind of my junior year. Because I was just like, at that point I was like trying to distance myself away from that as much as possible, which I thought would be easy. And it turns out having a 5-minute from death traumatic experience is a lot harder to recover from than I thought.
Yeah.
And so like after like a year or two, I was like, oh, I'm actually like mentally, I'm really effed up right now.
Yeah, sure.
It's like it took me a while to like actually realize just how bad what I went through was, and that like I need to address this. It's like that's where like the religion aspect comes in. Started going to therapy after that, because after I realized like how messed up I was mentally, and just about every time I'm in church, I just like remember like how close I was to not being here, and it just feels like a second chance basically. I'm just like every time I go on, I just feel so grateful to still be here.
Yeah. I'm grateful you're here too.
Yeah, I feel like I'm lucky that you're in my presence right now.
Yeah, I have so many thoughts running through my head. Like I found myself getting like angry at some of the fraternity guys. I guess like I also recognize there's some like didn't this hit like national media?
Yeah, I don't know if it was national. I mean, it hit like all of
regional,
all of Des Moines, all of Iowa, probably national, because like my mom was telling me like literally, I think it was that weekend or the weekend before, the dude up at Penn State died from hazing. And coming out of the like what happened, I didn't really think anything of it, because like typically like hazing, you think of like physical like beating, like forcing a funnel down your throat or something like that. And so I didn't really think of anything of it, but like I knew like what he did was like, it seems like kind of messed up, what they did, and doesn't seem right. And talking with like a lawyer was like, oh, there's like different aspects of hazing. There's the physical aspect, but then there's also like, I guess, mental.
Yeah, like the power dynamic.
Yeah.
Like I thought what you said about like you drew the parallel between like if you were an intern and your boss were like, you know, pushing something on you like that.
Yeah.
Like it's like the same.
That's not allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of extrapolating out from there. That's, you know, as somebody who's been in management roles, like I think it's really important to like make people feel like however they want to be is like welcome, as long as, you know, they're not doing something out of line.
And well, I mean that like even going back to like the hospitality stuff, like I feel like I try to do that as much as possible. Yeah.
And then I'm drawing another parallel between, you know, like post-COVID. I know we're not really post-COVID, but like, you know, post-COVID, you know, we've got people who want to continue working remotely 100% of the time, which our company facilitates. And then we've got some people that want to go to the office. And I think it's important that we're like, you know, you do you, however you want to do your work, as long as you're able to. Like, we want to welcome all people of whatever you know, mindset.
Yeah.
And not force them to go through, you know, some, you know, process to like be a part of the team.
Yeah.
It's just a very eye-opening, like you said, it makes you angry. And
yeah. I mean, that's like, what I was feeling like after it. It was like anger and I can't trust anybody.
Yeah.
And like another reason for joining the fraternity was like back like my high school, like we were like, everybody was really close, really kind of brotherhood. Our high school emphasizes brotherhood basically, and all of our alumni are like super connected. And it's like that was supposed to be like one of the big things about joining a fraternity. And it's like going through the whole process prior to that happening. It's just like really like eye-opening about people who you thought cared about you don't actually care about you, and they'd rather care about the fraternity than you as a person. Kind of sucks, but it really shows you who your real friends are. Because like even like random people that like maybe I had a group project with them, or like a teacher was like they taught my class or something like that, and like they'd reach out to me and like actually have kind words to say to me, and like that was really
when
cool.
they heard about
because like it was like televised and in newspapers and everything. Yeah, it was just like it's really cool to see those people show an interest and like a care for me, and so like I try to focus on that more than like the people who I thought were my friends and turned out kind of not to be.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many different lessons that other people can take away from this like whole experience.
Yeah, do you have any advice for younger people who are maybe going through university or anyone who's dealing with a situation?
Yeah, and I've been trying to like think about like what can I take away that I can like I guess spread to other people. Obviously one of them being is like don't get singled out. That was like my big thing of being the only pledge in that class. Yeah, definitely like being more aware. And it's tough as a freshman. Like you're a freshman in college, you're super naive. This is your first time on your own. It's like you just want to do whatever. You want to do everything, basically. But like you can't do everything. You
maybe
need to
don't
like
have to.
Well, yeah, you don't have to be doing everything, and just like be more aware, I guess. It's like bringing awareness kind of thing. Because when I went to college, I did not think hazing was a thing at all. I thought it was kind of a joke. I didn't realize like how serious it was. So like, I guess my advice would be like, do take it seriously, because it does still happen. Hopefully not anymore, but I'm sure it does. Be more aware of what's going on, and don't try to like get singled out, basically.
What about for those people who are in more of like the protector role in that kind of situation? Like,
yeah,
what would you say to them?
It's difficult to like realize it's happening because like that was the thing, was like I was separated. I was in the basement by myself with like 4 other guys, and it's like the people that would have stepped up were not around.
Like, yeah, there were no protectors, but like, and why? Like, why did and no one in that room like think it was wrong?
Like, for anyone who's in charge of a organization or a team, any kind of group, like, you need to be aware. Like, it's such like a dangerous situation that fraternity created by having like, nobody who's in charge of like making sure people are safe or something like that. Like that's their fault, for not having it structured correctly or not having the right people in place to keep people safe in that kind of situation.
Back to like the anger thing. That's like kind of like one of the big things of like prayer and therapy. Like therapy, you're just like, why am I angry? But also like, how do I process this? But then like religion, like Jesus teaches us to forgive, and it's like bringing that aspect in. Like I wouldn't have realized that going through therapy on my own, and like that's definitely like one of the big things that have helped, I guess, overcoming it and moving on. And obviously like it was such a big event that it's like it's gonna take a while to like completely forgive, but baby steps.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not as much anger inside you anymore, but
I want to thank you so much. First, just conceptually, I know it's not easy to talk about this kind of stuff, but also like it's very clear that like I can hear the gravity in your voice, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, so yeah, thank you.
I can feel the gravity in my voice.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to say thank you too, because I just feel like I don't even know. It's like just so hard to wrap my mind around. And so the fact that you can even tell that story, like, yeah, so I'm just thankful that you did.
Well, Marcus, thanks for joining us in the wardrobe today.
Yeah.
It's awesome having you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys.
See you later.
See you.